Hey everyone, welcome to this high-yield explainer, designed specifically to serve as your master study guide for medical sterilization. We are going way beyond basic disinfection today to tackle the absolute standard of microbial control. Whether you're prepping for your board exams, stepping into your clinical rotations, or managing a busy surgical center, you absolutely must view sterilization not just as some mundane daily chore, but as a meticulously validated process. Our goal today? Giving you the exact knowledge you need to render any medical item completely free of all viable microorganisms.
All right, let's just jump right in. Today's explainer is broken down into 5 quick chapters: the sterility assurance level, high-temperature sterilization, low-temperature alternatives, causes of failure, and finally, the monitoring system.
Starting right off with Chapter 1, the sterility assurance level.
Okay, so 10 to the negative sixth. It looks like just a random number, right? But this is actually the probabilistic holy grail for critical surgical instruments. See, unlike disinfection, sterilization is intended to be absolute. But here's the catch. We can't actually prove the absence of every single microbe without completely destroying the item we're trying to test. So how do we guarantee safety? We use the sterility assurance level, or SAL. Achieving an SAL of 10 to the negative sixth means there is literally less than a 1 in a million chance of a single viable microorganism remaining on your instrument. It's a mathematical guarantee of safety for your patients.
Moving right along to Chapter 2, high-temperature sterilization methods.
So steam autoclaving is basically the gold standard of the industry. It's inexpensive, non-toxic, and it rapidly kills bugs through the irreversible coagulation and denaturation of their structural proteins. Basically, it cooks them. Now, there are 2 primary methods. First, you've got gravity displacement. This is the classic way where steam enters and literally pushes the heavier air out through a floor vent. It takes about 30 minutes at 121 degrees Celsius. But then you have the high-speed pre-vacuum. This one is super cool because a vacuum pump sucks out all the air before the steam is even admitted. Because there's no air to fight against, steam penetration is nearly instantaneous, cutting the cycle down to a blazing fast 4 minutes at 132 degrees. But, and this is a huge board exam detail, because pre-vacuum relies on that pump, you absolutely must run a Bowie Dick test every single day to detect any dangerous air leaks.
Now, sometimes things just go wrong in the OR, right? Somebody drops a one-of-a-kind instrument on the floor. That's where flash sterilization comes in. It's a super fast 3-minute steam cycle for unwrapped objects. But listen, as future medical leaders, you got to enforce a strict rule here. This is solely for true emergencies. It is never, ever to be used just for convenience, to save time, or for processing implantable devices. Implants always require the full verified process.
Okay, but what if you're dealing with materials that moist heat can't penetrate or would completely destroy? Think about certain medical powders or oils. For those niche cases, you pivot to dry heat sterilization. Now, because it lacks the penetrating power of steam, it requires much higher temperatures, like 170 degrees Celsius and way longer times, usually around 60 minutes. Why? Because instead of coagulating proteins, dry heat kills via the much slower process of oxidation.
So, we've mastered the heat. Let's look at Chapter 3, low-temperature sterilization alternatives.
First up for the heat-sensitive stuff is ethylene oxide, or ETO gas. It's been the reliable standard since the 1950s. But there's a massive catch. This stuff is highly toxic and a known carcinogen. Because of that occupational risk, it legally requires this massive 8 to 12-hour aeration period at 50 to 60 degrees. You have to let those toxic residuals fully dissipate before the tool can even get near a patient.
If you want to skip the toxic gas, you can literally use the 4th state of matter, hydrogen peroxide gas plasma. It creates these free radicals that disrupt microbial metabolism incredibly fast. We're talking a 75-minute cycle with absolutely 0 toxic residues behind. No aeration time needed at all. But clinical limitation time, gas plasma is completely incompatible with cellulose, so no paper packaging, no linens, and absolutely no liquids can be processed this way.
The final low-temp alternative is peracetic acid immersion. You're basically giving heat-sensitive, immersible instruments an automated bath in a 0.2% acid solution at about 50 degrees Celsius. Now, here is a highly testable point for you and your nursing staff. Because these immersible instruments are not protected by packaging during this liquid bath, they must be used immediately right out of the machine. You literally cannot store them for later use.
But all this amazing tech is totally useless if the human element fails. That brings us to Chapter 4, causes of sterilization failure.
Here's the harsh truth. The most expensive sterilizer on the planet will fail if the prep work is sloppy. Prior cleaning?
That is your absolute non-negotiable step 1. If you leave even a speck of residual blood, tissue, or inorganic salts on a tool, that organic matter physically acts like a shield from microbes. Plus, if you have a massive bioburden, meaning a super high initial microbe count, the standard cycle time just might not be enough to kill everything. You also have to watch out for biofilms, those super-resistant communities of bacteria, and complex lumen designs, those incredibly narrow tubes and endoscopes. They make perfect little hiding spots where sterilants really struggle to reach. Bottom line, scrub those instruments.
So, if we've done all that right, how do we actually prove it? Chapter 5. The 3-tiered monitoring system. To make sure every load is legally and medically safe, we operate on a trust but verify model, using 3 distinct tiers. Tier 1, mechanical indicators. This is basically just checking the gauges and printouts on the machine to make sure the right time, temperature, and pressure were hit. Tier 2, chemical indicators. You've probably seen this. It's that special tape that changes color when it's exposed to heat. But wait, a color change only proves the item got hot, not that it's actually sterile, which is exactly why we need Tier 3, biological indicators. This is the only direct measure of true lethality because we actually try to kill highly resistant bacterial spores.
Okay, I need you to take a mental screenshot right now. Seriously, if you're taking a medical board exam anytime soon, you're going to see this. You have to map the specific highly resistant spore to the correct sterilization method. For steam, gas plasma, and peracetic acid, the test spore is Geobacillus stereothermophilus. It loves heat, so if steam kills it, everything else is definitely dead. But for ethylene oxide gas and dry heat, you test the system using Bacillus atrophilus. Lock those pairings into your memory for sure.
Now, what happens if that biological indicator comes back positive, meaning those tough little spores actually survived the cycle? Honestly, you have a potential crisis. You must execute a rapid response protocol immediately to prevent a patient safety disaster. Step 1, pull that sterilizer out of service right away. Stop using it. Step 2, recall every single item processed since your last known negative biological indicator. Step 3, reprocess all that recalled gear through a machine you know works. And Step 4, investigate. Even if your mechanical gauges and chemical tape looked totally fine and you think it's just a fluke, you've got to find out what went wrong before that machine ever touches another surgical load.
We've covered a ton of ground today, haven't we? From the mathematical magic of achieving that perfect 10 to the negative 6th SAL to weighing the blazing speed of pre-vacuum steam against the low-temp precision of gas plasma. You know now that without meticulous cleaning, even the best machines fail, and you know exactly which spores prove your lethality. So, as you head into your clinical rotations or step into a leadership role, I'll leave you with this. When the pressure is on and a patient's safety is literally resting in your hands, which method will you confidently rely on? Keep studying, trust the absolute standard, and we'll see you in the next explainer.